Metroid. And we got some big news recently. Metroid Dread is coming to the Nintendo Switch later this year. Metroid Prime 4 at some point in the future. They didn't really talk about it, but I'm excited for Metroid Dread. It looks really good. I'm very intrigued by the being hunted mechanic, and I hope they find some cool ways to make that work. And I thought I'd talk a little bit about my history with the Metroid franchise. I started playing Metroid with the NES game. I remember renting it at least one time from Jumbo Video, and I know I rented it before then too, before we moved to buy a Jumbo Video. And I was very confused by it at the time. Like, it's of course this labyrinthian game, and the original Metroid didn't even have a map. So as a little kid, I just kind of ran around and shot aliens, and I didn't really understand what was going on. But it looked kind of cool, and people seemed to really love it at the time. I think that for me, where it really caught my attention was with Super Metroid. And I vividly remember it was the year that the Nintendo 64 came out. Like, this had already been out for years. I hadn't played it. But they had demo booths for the Nintendo 64, which wasn't out in North America yet, and the Super Nintendo. And before I played Mario 64, the game I played was Super Metroid. And I remember, the sequence at the beginning of the game where you're fighting the boss and then the space station's about to blow up and everything's shaking and exploding and you have to escape. And I thought, like, holy cow, this is the coolest thing I've ever played. It was so cinematic in a way that I hadn't experienced before in a game. I thought it was amazing. And that stuck with me, even though I didn't have Super Metroid. And then I would play Mario 64, which was absolutely mind-blowing and taking things to the third dimension. It wouldn't be until years later when I started collecting Super Nintendo games. My house got robbed. I lost all my old games. I lost all my old consoles. And then when I got a Super Nintendo back at some point in the 2000s, I started collecting games again. And one of the games I got was Super Metroid. I would then later get it on the Wii U Virtual Console. I'm still not very far. I know many people hold this game in very high regard as one of the best in the series. And I happen to get lost. I get too lost in Metroid games, and then I'm unable to find my way. And that's been my demon for decades now, and I hope I can fix that with Metroid Dread. But this was the second Metroid game I played. Another one, the closest I've gotten to beating a Metroid game is this one right here. Metroid Prime franchise switches to a first-person perspective by Retro Studios. Phenomenal game. Absolutely incredible game. I love this game from beginning to... I know I got to the final world. I got to the final world before getting lost and not being able to retrace my steps. Odds are, with a guide, I could probably figure it out and then beat the game. But, this is an amazing game. I think they found an amazing way of bringing Metroid into the 3D world, making it first-person perspective while still capturing a lot of the magic of the original games. And then the last Metroid game I bought, I do have Metroid Prime Trilogy, I think. Okay, it's not the last game I got. I have Metroid Prime Trilogy I think it's on the Wii U, but on GameCube. This game is the start of my backlog. Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. I bought this game at launch. I've never played it. And I bought it at launch because I loved Metroid Prime. It's still a fantastic game, and I was excited to get into this one. But circumstances were such around the time of this game's release that I just kind of pushed it to the back burner, like, I'll get around to it. I think I'd started... What year was this released? This was 2004. Okay, I was in college at this point, and college was very crazy, and I wasn't really playing video games as much at the time, so I kind of bought it with my part-time work money and just kind of moved on. And at some point I will play this. We'll get around to it. And then I got a couple of amiibos as well. We've got the original Samus amiibo, very well rendered. The Metroid amiibos are some of my favorites out of all of them. And then one of my most recent amiibo pickups is Dark Samus which looks absolutely gorgeous. I love the change in the armor, where regular Samus is very mechanical, metal, and this is like alien organic, and the camera's doing a really great job of showing the details on that, and the fuzz too.